On this episode of Where We Are, we take your questions and give you answers. It's a reciprocal thing on this week's episode of Where We Are. This is Where We Are. We are the Wheres. I'm Michael.
I'm Melissa.
Melissa.
Yeah.
It's the end of the weekend, but
What's going on?
Not much.
Not much.
Really, truly. Yeah. Really, truly.
I'm excited for this episode. Always love when we do listener questions.
Me too.
And
They're like my favorite.
yeah, no, and we got great ones this time around. I should say, just a reminder, this podcast is brought to you in partnership with the That Sounds Fun Network. And hey, I am spending this weekend going through the PDF for the last time. I even went to FedEx, printed it out, and going through the manuscript of my book, and then I need to send it off and can't make any more changes. It would be a huge encouragement to me if you pre-ordered the book at wherever you buy books. If you want to go to your local bookstore and sort of get your name on one of the books at your brick and mortar, you could do that. You can go online. But gosh, I'm excited about this book. I'm in the stage of the writing process, which is fleeting, and maybe happens like 2 or 3 times while you're writing a book, where you just go, I think this is good. And that lasts for about 48, 72 hours, and then you're back to existential despair. But I'm in the, I think this is pretty good part of it. And so this is a good time to pre-order. Melissa, one more bit of housekeeping before we...
Yes.
We asked last week about presidential horse race stuff, and we are so grateful for the responses in that you did respond.
And we got many different answers.
We are not so grateful in the fact that what is firmly established is we have a very wide and varied listenership and audience. We got everything from yes, do this every week. If you don't, you're cowards. And we got, please don't do this until like October of 2024, because I hate that the campaign is too long. And then we got some answers in between. We are, we don't generally think when it comes to politics that you should just aim to split the difference. We think that there are principles that should guide policy decisions, not just triangulation. But in this case,
We triangulated hard.
yeah, we're splitting the difference on this one. And Eric Rubio, a listener, made the suggestion that we're going with. Eric, sensible guy, solid guy. He knows what he's talking about. He suggested doing it just once a month. And so once a month, starting in August, we'll just do, it won't be the whole episode, but it'll be a sort of rundown of the horse race, the power rankings.
Yes, power rankings.
And we'll start in August because we'll set sort of the benchmark, and then the first debate's in August.
The first debate's August 23rd. And then Iowa's GOP just announced that the first primary for the entirety of the GOP will be January 15th. So it won't be too long after August. We'll have about 4 rankings before we hit that very first primary. So we think that August is a good time, once a month. And I had the idea that alongside this power ranking of the GOP, we're going to throw in very much a Ware family power ranking. We were thinking through what else could we power rank that we think that our listeners would deeply enjoy, and we thought
Pasta shapes.
Pasta shapes.
Pasta shapes.
Types of pasta.
And, maybe this whole thing will merge by the time we get to like February, March, and it's just a bit crazed, and we'll just start comparing different presidential candidates to pasta shapes. And,
yeah, like Tim Scott's going to be bow tie, like things like that. Sorry, that just popped into my head.
Yeah.
But we're going to have the GOP power rankings, and we're going to have the pasta.
The
power
where
rankings.
pasta shape rankings. It will be the authoritative.
Yes, there will be no other power ranking of pasta shapes that will ever come close to the power ranking we are about to give you.
Okay, Melissa, before we get into questions,
Yeah. Do we want to talk cocaine?
let's talk cocaine at the
Okay.
White House.
Yeah.
I tweeted about this. It's usually the kind of story we don't cover until there's actual news.
Yeah.
And, this is like one of those classic, especially, honestly, the only thing that surprises me is that it's not in August. That this is totally like an August story, but it's
It
like
really
not
is.
much is going on.
In July, the month before. Yeah.
And this is the kind of story that's like 95% gossip.
Mm-hmm.
It's also the kind of story that like peters out. It's made a big deal, and then just like it's the kind of story that now there are exceptions. This might be one, but this does read to me like of the genre of story that 95% of which the media just all of a sudden doesn't care about it after a while, and it just sort of like peters out. But it was all the news this week. The basic rundown is I read about this. I couldn't remember if it was Politico or Axios, but I read a briefer on it in one of the emails I get about the I think Secret Service identifying white powder that was tested.
Yep.
Was found to be cocaine. And the theory that was advanced in this email, which, is like, the theory that was advanced is that it was likely through West Wing tour.
Yes.
That White House staff are able to host family and outside guests for tours, and the theory was an outside guest brought cocaine in, and it was at the White House. It was left at the White House. What was odd, Melissa, is this played out all week. Of course, there were like right wing, this is Joe Biden's secret stash kind of stories. What was weird is that there was like a developing about a story about like where it was found, and at one point the story like switched to it being found on West Exec Avenue, and I was seeing like a lot of Twitter chatter like this changes everything, and some conservative people were being like that's where the vice president's car goes, and it's like it's where like a lot of people's cars go. It's also where all of the tours, where all the West Wing tours go in. Like, so it was weird to me. This like this changes everything when it was like, no, actually, this actually makes a lot of sense with the theory that was initially advanced. Melissa, in an earlier episode, we told about when you came for a visit to the West Wing.
One of many.
And you were on West Exec
and
Avenue.
I went through that entrence, yes.
And you went through that entrance.
And I wasn't supposed to go through that entrance.
No. But so we're not going to do updates on the story. I tweeted about it once. Just to share this West Exec is the West Wing tour place. I don't plan on tweeting about it again unless actual news comes out. But what a weird. I mean, it is just such one of those weird stories. I was listening to Jon Favreau, my old colleague, Jon Favreau, who worked at the White House, and he was saying something that I thought was, which is, the most likely thing is that someone out there knows it was their cocaine and is just watching all of this take place, but doesn't want to incriminate themselves. And so the entire machinery of the Fourth Estate, and of course, like, they're thinking, like, do I tell? like, do I tell? And there is like a drama going on that probably only one person knows about, like, this whole internal chaos that is happening. Yeah. So, yeah. Any thoughts about cocaine at the White House, Melissa?
I have no further thoughts about cocaine at the White House.
I will say it is one of those. See, this is where I'm is where I'm conflicted.
Okay.
Which is this story happening because the Biden White House is boring and we've made we've made politics boring again? And so this is like, I mean, like in the Obama years when, there would be suit? Is this his well, during the Obama years, there was like 3 days of stories because someone like got over the fence at the White House and people were like, or, should this be treated as, what is cocaine doing at the White House? Which, is not an insane.
No, it's a very valid
very valid question.
We know that people work long hours there, so I mean, for me.
No, so this is the thing, though. This is why when you come on as a new administration, you shouldn't have on background administration officials complaining that national security advisors have to have never done drugs before. I don't know if you remember all of that, Melissa. There was this kind of mini campaign that drug prohibitions on having a drug history and getting security clearance should be weakened. And there was like this weird, like in the opening month of the Biden administration, there were people who found the time and thought it was like a great idea to be like, no, this is a travesty. Like, we need to, this is the story we need to be pushing out. And not a priority on my list, I'll be honest. Like, I just,
Mine either.
All right.
Let's move on.
Let's get to questions.
All right, let's start off with, what kind of political humor makes you laugh? Is there a kind of political humor that you think is unhelpful or even harmful?
So this is the question that inspired this question episode because it came out of the blue.
Yeah, in an
from
email,
a listener.
And I deeply enjoyed it.
And to this listener, you prompted an entire question episode just because of how great of a question this is.
Yeah.
Melissa, what would you say?
So I told this person that my very first instinct within 3 seconds of reading this of what's my type of political humor to sort of give the vibes is the Key and Peele skit at the 2015 White House Correspondents' Dinner where, President Obama was in the middle of giving his speech full of jokes. And it's Luther the anger translator translating all of the very pragmatic or politically correct or whatever type of statements that Obama's making. And then it's just Luther the anger translator just throwing stuff out there. I think that that's hilarious. I think that's funny. It's one of my favorite skits that I can think of in political humor. Now, when I think of humor that I think is unhelpful or harmful, I have a very, very stark, staunch, strong, whatever you want to call it, red line around political humor that goes towards any politician's child or children. I think that that's deeply harmful, unhelpful. I think it's completely off bounds. You do not do it the second that you are making fun of somebody's kid, no matter who they are, whose kid it is, what child it is. It's off limits for me. So that's one of the big red lines that I have in terms of something being harmful or unhelpful. Michael, I know that you and I talk all the time about where the lines are when it comes to political humor and sort of stuff being reverent, actually funny, versus things that start to become counterproductive or things that lead people down certain avenues where they kind of blur the lines between pop culture, politics, humor, the whole thing. Well, first of all, what's your kind of political humor? And then what's your answer to that second part of the question?
Yeah, so there's a range of political humor I love. I've liked Lewis Black for a long time.
You have, for sure.
And got to see him. Actually took my mother to see him on Mother's Day. I think John Mulaney's horse in a hospital bit is a
funny.
really, I think that is very a high level, quality political humor. It makes you think. Mm-hmm. It has different sort of turns in it that sort of, I like political humor that can make people feel like all their biases are being affirmed, but then turn it on them.
Yes.
And so they think that, oh, we're all laughing at those people, and then all of a sudden, sort of, there's a turn that turns it on them. And I like that myself. If I'm sort of made to feel that way, I think that's one of the gifts that comedians can give. We've referenced this article quite a bit, but it's John Askanis, who's a professor at Catholic University, a friend, wrote an article for the New Atlantis about how Jon Stewart made Tucker Carlson. That I think is really good. I think we might have named it one of the best articles of 2022.
Yeah.
I do think this sort of pseudo-informational comedy about politics. So I think if it's a stand-up, you have almost free reign. And I think people need to have the common sense to understand that they're going to see a stand-up act, and that's what it is. I think where I get concerned is when you have non-comedians or comedians presenting themselves as something more than that, as sort of authorities or as objective, experts or people making objective analysis, and then sort of using comedy, sort of turning politics into entertainment. I think John points out not that Jon Stewart was never funny or that there aren't good bits that he did. I think John's argument is that over time, what it cultivated, the kind of approach it cultivated in a certain set of people to the actual practice of politics, I think John makes a really good argument that it was a net negative.
Yeah, it's a great article. And you and I have often, throughout the years, I mean, early on in our early political careers, we would have a lot of much younger people come up to us, especially you were already working in the White House, and just say, like, I'm into this because of, this.
Yeah, and I'd be like,
because
no,
of-
if you're into politics because of Jon Stewart, you're not into politics. Like,
Yeah.
you're like, that is not the on-ramp you want to take.
Yeah, the amount of people who would come to us with that particular kind of like viewpoint of why they'd want to go get a degree was a lot. So it's like, it's a very, like, he's very, that type of comedy is like very influential. And so I think that particular article kind of hit the nail on the head. I wanted to say, because you're completely right that stand-up, I think, is much better when it comes to political jokes. I think another good one is Mike Birbiglia. We really like him.
Yeah, we do.
And the stuff that he does when he does go political.
Which is not often.
It's not
but
often, but he'll throw it in there. And we think he's kind of like a John Mulaney in that, like, the way that he crafts his jokes is very smart, we think. So next question. This was the question. UFOs? Question mark.
So I'll say I don't have very strong opinions. I don't. I'm not someone who believes that sort of everything hangs on the question. I actually think it's the kind of thing that people who want everything to sort of hang in the balance and be uncertain. I think people use the UFO question to be like, if this was true, everything would change. And because we don't know that it's not, that UFOs don't exist, and how could we like sort of know anything? Like, it sort of serves that function for some people. Would be interested to find out, but I don't, it's not something I think about. I think about often. I will go down the rabbit hole it seems like every, year, there's at least one moment in which, the Pentagon has something weird come out, or there's some sort of, essay about someone who dug into questions. But yeah, Melissa, you've always been interested in what do you think?
Of course. I mean, this question's coming up because last month NASA gave a public press conference on their study into what they call unidentified anomalous phenomena, so UAPs instead of UFOs. I think they're pretty much the same thing. And NASA apparently this month of July will be coming out with an actual written report of what they found. But they, this public meeting that was held last month in June, you're saying that they get about 50 to 100 reports every month, but they find that in their actual database, the totality of their database of all these reports of these UAPs, 2 to 5% are really possibly anomalous or actually unidentified. So, but 2 to 5%, when you think about the entire database, is still pretty high. And so that's why I think that a lot of people were, again, like you're saying, it seems like every year, every couple of years, there's some report comes out where you kind of go, okay, so is this it? Are we revealing that we do have evidence of this? And so I'm waiting for this month, for this July report from NASA to see if there's, because a lot of people are saying, oh, this was a smoking gun, this public meeting. And I read through the stuff and I didn't think it was. I was kind of like, we need more information for me to think anything of this. So I'm waiting on this July report. And essentially, like, what I want when it comes to like answering a question like this is, I would prefer if the government were a little bit more open as to what its plans are, should we actually discover that there are true unidentified flying objects filled with beings from a different, galaxy, planet. I would like to know what the plans are, what the initial plans are.
I would not. I
really?
think that's an awful idea.
I know it would. I know it would. From a political standpoint, it would be horrific, and this is why we don't actually have any kind of information. But for me, I'm kind of like, what does the government have planned? Do we have plans? Do we not have a plan? Are there 16 plans? Is there one? I'd like to know. So that's my answer to that question.
What's behind door number 2?
No, for real. What's the policy, my friends?
Love the UFO question.
Yes, thank you.
Do you know what? Do you know who makes me, just to close,
Yeah.
do you know who makes me think about UFOs every year? So Ross Douthat. We'll write a column on
true.
UFOs.
Consistent, yes.
Every year or two, and that usually sends me down the rabbit hole. If you're interested,
We should have him on the pod
we
specifically.
should have him
about
just to talk
UFOs.
UFOs. If you're interested about the subject, just like go to the New York Times, search Douthat, and like extraterrestrials, UFOs, and he has some good columns on the subject. Okay.
All right. Next question. We have been asked to discuss ranked choice voting, and we actually did an episode on this. It's episode 32 from September 2022. We were talking about in conjunction with Alaska's primary, where they actually do use ranked choice voting to decide. And it's a great episode. It's actually our second most listened to episode ever. And so I will put that in the episode notes. It's a great place to see sort of our thoughts on the whole issue.
Yep.
Now, our next question, where do you wish faith-based media would provide more accountability?
Yeah. Oh, gosh. You know, I it's an interesting question. I kind of am interested in the thoughts of the person who asked it. You know, you want more accountability where more accountability is like needed. You know, like, so I'm very grateful for the reporting that's going on right now around sexual abuse and various religious environments. I think that we've seen some really good investigative journalism, around, various sort of controversies and issues of sort of misuse of religious institutions have come up. But kind of the thing, and this is kind of this is only somewhat responsive to the question, or at least what I think the questioner is getting to. But for me, the best religious journalism, or the best journalism on religion, is explanatory. It helps readers get inside of a religious community, a religious practice that is, meaningful to the public, and where it could be misconstrued or misunderstood, or where it could be sort of treated as as a spectacle, or as something that should just be sort of like a tourist attraction. You actually get more in touch with humanity and the humanity of your own humanity and the humanity of the people who are sort of the subjects, through the journalism. And so, I think Ruth Graham is very good at this. I think Emma Green's very good at this. I think Bob Smetana is very good at this. I think Kelsey Dallas is very good.
I think my favorite would be Tim Alberta.
I think Tim Alberta is fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
So much is written on evangelicals, white evangelicals, but I find that his stories are explainers but in essay form. And even though obviously he grew up in certain spaces and he's close to the ground, he somehow is able to actually go more the explainer route rather than going down like his own baggage route. And I deeply, deeply admire that. Because I think for faith-based media reporting, I think those types of personal biases, where you came from, wherever it may be, no matter what faith you're covering, I think that it's
100%.
something that is getting better. And again, we've just listed a bunch of people. I mean, there's various different outlets, even outlets where like they're very clear as to where they stand on the political spectrum, like trying to hold themselves accountable in this way. But I still see it with some coverage, some reporting, and you really see it on a few different issues. And the other one, where the other two sort of issue areas where I feel like, one, I don't see really quite an issue with it per se, but it's something that I think even faith-based media reporting has to look out for is misinformation and disinformation. I don't think that reporting on religion is free from those things.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then the second thing would be the coverage of Christian nationalism. If you've listened to us to talk about Christian nationalism, we think it's probably one of the most popular areas for religion or faith-based media to be covering right now, as it should be. It's a very fascinating, interesting issue, one with a lot of consequences attached to it. But we think that there could be an improvement. I think that there can be an improvement on coverage of like that particular subject. Okay, so next question. Do we have thoughts on the Forward Party?
Yes. Disclosure, I know some of the folks involved. I think this is a time where we're seeing disruption across many sectors, including politics. And so folks who have listened to me talk about this before, there are very strong obstacles in the way of a third party. But I think if it was going to happen at any point over the last 20 years, I'd say the obviously Perot. Mm-hmm. Now that was sort of an individual who had a huge, he had huge finances available. Mm-hmm. But probably this is the time since Perot in which real disruption and institution building can take place in the area of political parties and political institutions. And so, I am supportive of projects like it. I think the Forward Party has a better sense of what it is now than it did a year ago, and will have a better sense of what it is a year from now than, they're trying to build this as they go and not sort of unnecessarily cut out potential partners and they're trying to build on-ramps, not sort of barriers to entry. And so I think they're very smart. I am interested to see what develops with them in the coming in the coming months and years. But like, do I think that they'll be ready, or that it would even be wise to go presidential in 24? No. What will be interesting is if they're able to rack up even a couple wins in local races, and they can build credibility that way. Yeah,
completely agree on the credibility building, starting off small. Next question: which sensible Colorado or Utah leader is most likely to go national?
Love this question.
Yeah, and I've talked about him before on the podcast. Spencer Cox, the governor of Utah.
Yes.
If we're really focusing on the word sensible in that question.
So if there was a third party, you could absolutely see him on a third party ticket.
Yeah.
Very difficult to see. Honestly, you kind of think he would be more likely to be the sort of cross-partisan pick of a Democratic nominee for president than a Republican seeing upside with him. I can see that. Mm-hmm. But I do think he has sort of talent to go national. It's just our politics is so messed up now that people like him don't have much of a chance. I mean, it is kind of funny that this question is asked without reference to the fact that Michael Bennett did run for president in 2020.
Yeah.
And so did John Hickenlooper, actually.
Yeah,
now that,
Hickenlooper. Those are the two senators of Colorado.
Neither of their campaigns did too well. Hickenlooper dropped out before votes took place. Bennett dropped out after New Hampshire. I like Bennett quite a bit. But, don't think he's going to be the Democratic nominee. I actually think, Melissa, given the state of the political parties, what's going on politically, the Colorado-Utah politician that I could see most likely, with a national future, it is Jared Polis, the governor of Colorado. And he's often Democrat, often in discussion. I prefer Bennett, but Polis is someone who had a growing profile as a congressman and was even sort of talked about as a potential VP, whatever, as congressman. As governor, he's had nothing that to me would suggest that he doesn't have an eye on a national run in 2028 or at some point in the future.
Yeah. So what are our thoughts on the Florida Democratic Party in general?
It's a complete
total
mess
mess
right now.
Yeah.
It's a complete mess right now.
Very weak.
I don't, there are people like Steve Shale and others. I spent a lot of time, in Florida when I was working directly on presidential campaigns. I know the state. I mean, it's a big state, but I know the state, pretty well. There are people who could speak to the health of the party infrastructure better than I could. My sort of sense, though, is that it's not so much if we had if Democrats had a stronger party chair in this county, if they had stronger, better organizers in the I-4, they'd be in a better shape. No, I just think Florida is a casualty to Democrats of how the parties have shifted, which is to say Democrats have been losing support among Hispanic voters over the last decade.
Yes.
On cultural issues have appealed to younger voters, whereas Florida, there's a significant population towards the other end of the age spectrum, and so I just think Florida is a state that, based on decisions the Democratic Party has made, they chose to. Their political strategy has put in play some states, Georgia, North Carolina, and it's taken out others for the time being, including Florida. I mean, now we've had several big races: Val Demings, Gilliam,
Right.
That Democrats have poured a ton of money into, and it's not been as close as they thought it would be. So yeah, I think the party is in rough shape. I wouldn't speak to the actual infrastructure of the Democratic Party. I just think the environment has meant that the national party brand is a drag in Florida, and that's harmed Democrats' chances in the state.
All right, moving from that question to what is giving us hope these days in politics that we might move towards less polarization?
I mean, gosh, I think I'm seeing I know the question is about hope. I'm not too hopeful over the next 18 months with the presidential campaign. I do think we're starting to see some tectonic plates shifting around education, income, that different members of both parties are making appeals that could lead to fractures within the political parties, so that we have some diversity on these questions within the parties, which is essential if you're going to have decreased party polarization, which is that you have the ability for cross-party alliances. Like if the divides between the parties are so clean, and if the parties themselves are so unified, that tends to lead to these harsh divides of polarization. I'm starting to see that break down again, particularly when it comes to economic issues, and when it comes to the way that relates to polarization. That's a cause for hope that we'll see a decline in polarization.
Yeah, because I think most people would choose to focus more on culture war, social issues, like when are those going away, when are those calming down. And I think you're completely right that in the end, a lot of our culture war issues, what sort of hides behind them are economic concerns, and that's just not usually something that's addressed when it comes to the stuff that gets people riled up the most, that, gets people to write the vilest things online, like et cetera, to cut somebody off from their life. A lot of times there are a lot of economic concerns behind these issues, and that if there are some tectonic plates moving, that we might actually see some decrease in this negative hyperpolarization.
Yeah.
The next question, and the last of our substantive questions is what was your favorite aspect of working in the Obama administration? I didn't work in the Obama administration, but I was
you kind of did. You kind of did.
That's a story for another day, folks. You can ask the question next time of what was Melissa's 10 days of interning on the
No. I'm thinking about State Department, SCAP.
But that wasn't. But political appointees.
Yeah, no. I know. I'm just
not the State Department. Anyways, my favorite part of being attached to someone was the parties.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that.
The Christmas parties, the inauguration parties, the balls, all of the really fun social stuff.
Yeah, there was a point where I did tell you I hope you're enjoying this, because this is not a forever.
Oh, I was in awe every time. We got to sit in the presidential box a few times at the Kennedy Center and saw some great acts. I cherished every single aspect of it. We still have the little M&M's boxes, the little champagne bottles from these little events with the seal of Barack Obama.
Yeah. So that was. I feel weird following this up with something sort of earnest, or something. I mean, that's earnest on your part, but I got to. People always think, "Oh, politics, faith-based office. You must have seen some really disheartening stuff with religious leaders," and I did see some of that. But my favorite part was I got to see the best of religious contribution to the well-being of the country on nearly a daily basis. And that was just tremendously inspiring. Have never been more prayed for than the 4 years when I worked in the White House. And again, just got to know faith-based nonprofits and volunteers that were doing incredible work. Got to meet incredible religious leaders and clergy from around the country, and I'll never forget those opportunities.
All right, we wrap up those questions. Now moving on, I had to giggle at this question. The question is, how are you?
You know, it's been an exhausting season. There's a lot of good stuff happening at the Center for Christianity and Public Life, but we're a startup, and we have more work that people want from us than three humans can deliver on, which is a good problem to have. But it is an exhausting season. We're looking to scale and grow as a team even before the end of this year. But I'm feeling a bit exhausted. I am excited about some of the travel I have coming up. We have coming up. San Francisco, New York, Boston. I'm speaking at Tufts this coming week, which I'm really excited about. Speaking at some churches over the summer, and so excited about some travel coming up. But yeah, that's how I'm doing. I feel like this is a season of sort of like, kind of like powering through,
Yeah, powering through is the word. I'm learning how to cook. I'm actually not too bad at it. Turns out I really dislike it, but I'm a pretty good cook. And yeah, being a parent to 2 toddlers is exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say that much. Next question. Cake or pie?
Melissa?
Pie by a landslide. I don't like cake. I don't like cake at all. I don't eat cake.
Yeah, I'm not a big cake person either. I do prefer pie. Like my favorite, I love so I'm not a big dessert guy to like generally, but when I do have dessert, I do like mousses. I like
You love chocolate cream pie.
I do like chocolate cream pie. Best dessert I've ever had was this semifreddo in Italy that I need to travel back and have that dessert again before the person who made it dies or something. But yeah, I'm not a big dessert guy. But if I had to choose cake or pie for sure.
Yeah. My dad makes this really amazing chocolate mint pie that I think about all the time.
You do, and
I love that pie so much. Now the next question, I had to go look this up because I was like, what? Pickleball. I guess, what are our thoughts on pickleball?
I am so pleased to say that I have zero thoughts on pickleball.
I know, I don't have thoughts on pickleball either. I had to go look up, because I was thinking, I was like, is that the game where in 1980s movies where wealthy people are playing it in that little indoor glass box thing? No, that is racquetball.
No, it isn't. And people still play that today. Actually,
Yes.
that's not relegated to the 1890s or whatever.
The 1980s.
Oh, okay.
You know how all these 80s movies, half of the characters are constantly in that glass box playing racquetball. But I thought that was pickleball. That's not pickleball.
No.
Pickleball can be played indoors or outdoors. It looks like fun. It looks like basically is it ping pong? Yes, ping pong, but played in a tennis court. That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah,
cool. I'm game to try. That's my
Okay.
thought towards it. Can you tell us something that we like for ourselves because we've had kids? Something we've started
Since we had
Yeah.
kids, something that we like now that we didn't before.
Yeah.
My answer is baseball. And
Yes, that's a good one. That is true.
I think I like it with the kids. I like it without them. I don't like it it's not because I like doing it with them. It really, having kids aged me into liking baseball. You, Melissa, what would you say?
So I don't mind sitting outdoors as much anymore now that we have kids. I don't like the outdoors. I'm an indoor person.
So true.
And, they're constantly begging to go outside. And so sitting outside now, yeah, sometimes it can be pleasant. And then, art museums. I really like art. And I was fine, you and I would go travel and we'd always go to art museums, especially before we had kids. And they're fine with me. But art museums, and a lot of museums are even more fun now because our kids are constantly pointing out stuff or getting interested in things where I would have passed them by. And so they're sort of, and I guess that's probably why I like the outdoors too, because my kids will constantly be pointing to something, asking questions about something. Saoirse especially knows that when she asks me a question about anything that could be remotely scientific, I will either tell her the full answer or we'll go look it up myself. I actually kind of really enjoy that. That parenthood has sort of brought me into now. So, what are you exceptionally, laughably bad at?
Anything involving motor skills.
So true.
Yeah, like Saoirse is already exceeding my ability to color. So
Yep, she is.
she's not gonna like have that thing that like most kids have, where at least until they're like 10 or 12, they think like their parent is like an art genius. No, like mine is already like, Dada, I got this. Like, thanks for the thought, but let me take it from here. Yeah.
I am laughably bad at following written directions. If you give me like a recipe or to build some very cheap piece of furniture off of Amazon, or a game, like a board game, a card game, and you have me read the directions after maybe the first, maybe I can get to the second step, my brain just starts repeating some song on repeat or goes to mush. I cannot follow written directions. I'm very, very bad at it. So most of the time, I just start doing stuff on my own without reading the directions. I'm that kind of person because I know that I'm going to shut down when I start reading them. So our last question, do we enjoy watching political shows together? Examples like The West Wing or Veep or others. I would have to say that you and I together, we don't watch too many political shows.
We love them when they're well done.
Yes.
If they're not well done, we can't
turn them off after
stand
the
them.
first few episodes. So, like, the most recent example would be The Diplomat on Netflix.
Which was actually kind of a border. Like, it took us like 4 or 5 episodes to decide that, like, they just made too many errors. They made too many, like, plot shortcuts.
Yeah.
For it to be sustainable. There are other shows that we've done where it's been like we're 20 minutes in and we're like, nope, like Designated Survivor. 20 minutes into Designated Survivor, I was like, nope, not going to be able to do this.
Yeah. And I have a confession to make. I've never actually seen more than like 3 episodes of The West Wing.
Which is ridiculous.
I didn't like what I saw. I didn't like it.
Which is fine.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm not like the biggest West Wing guy, but it is kind of a show that's worth
But probably
giving a chance.
the show that we watched through all the way through and we've now watched through again that we both love deeply would be Homeland.
100%.
Homeland would be our favorite political show that we have ever watched together and have watched again together.
Yeah. And I think Madam Secretary was very
Madam
well
Secretary
done. We've
was
talked
very
about this on
cute.
previous episodes.
Yes.
It's very well done. I think they had very good consultants and writers on the show. I think we just didn't stick with it because it felt like you were watching a network TV show.
Yeah.
In a way that when you have sort of premium that's able to be a bit more sophisticated.
Yeah.
It just didn't hold my attention. But I remember like watching the episodes and liking them. But like that, the things that they feel they need to do for episodic network television so that people can like jump in at any time. So like every episode has to be like self-contained, whatever. Like it didn't feel like it would be a smart investment of my time to watch every episode for seasons, you know?
Yeah.
I did get to meet like a bunch of the cast at the White House Correspondents' Dinner one year.
Oh, yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
You were excited.
Yeah. Wait,
right.
don't I have a boat? Don't I have a boat picture in the tux with the dude who plays
The husband?
the husband?
Yes, the professor.
Yeah.
Yeah. You do
I
have a picture with him.
just remembered that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great photo. If I do say so myself, it's not often I get dressed up in a tux. Yeah,
No, it's not. And I'm so jealous when you went to that correspondence dinner. So
I mean, I
jealous.
did have to sit with Newt and Callista Gingrich, so don't be.
And then you sat next to that football player from New England Patriots as a Buffalo Bills fan. That was you were texting me back and forth with that one.
Yeah. He. There was like we were like very friendly, and then I was like, I made a Bills comment just to make sure that I wasn't betraying Bills Mafia, and yeah, we didn't exchange numbers after that. It was Malcolm Butler.
Yeah.
Malcolm Butler, who fantastic football
very,
player,
very
but
good
yeah.
player. That is it, folks. That's the end of our list of our audience questions.
Great
Hope you
questions.
enjoyed it. Thank you for the good questions again. We'll obviously do this again in a few weeks. But until then,
I mean, maybe not in a few weeks, but like we'll do it again at some
few
point.
months.
Before the end of the year.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right, you've been listening to Where We Are. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next week.
Bye.
It's the end of the weekend, but I still wanna